January 10th, 1945. 0412 a.m., outside Tillet, Belgium. Dark, snow-swallowing sound. The moon is trapped behind clouds, and the forest seems frozen in one breath of silence. American infantrymen crouch in a trench barely deeper than a grave, breath steaming in the cold, eyes fixed on a narrow road no wider than a barn lane. They don't know if the Germans will come, only that if a tank rolls through here, they'll hear the chains. Sergeant Harold Keller, 87th Infantry Division, doesn't blink. His glove is pressed against a crude metal lever bolted to a salvaged forestry winch, tensioned so tightly that his hand shakes with the slightest movement. It's not fear. It's the force humming through the steel cable buried under the snow, a length of logging chain, 2 oak stakes, and a wrap of reinforced towing wire. It looks more like something from a farm workshop than a battlefield. And the tank crews who saw Keller testing it yesterday laughed at him for it. "You trying to catch cows, Sergeant, or Germans?" They chuckled, rolled their eyes at the rope trick. Tank armor versus a piece of wire? Ridiculous. But tonight, Harold Keller doesn't look ridiculous. Tonight, he waits like a hunter. A distant rumble breaks the cold. Then another. Not engines idling. Tracks, heavy ones. The ground trembles, soft vibrations through the snow-packed road. Trees shake loose icicles. Keller whispers only one word, voice flat and steady. Panzer. Out from the shadowed road, a long snout pushes forward. Sharp edges, sloped armor, a predatory silhouette crawling straight toward them. The turret of a Panther Osford G slices the darkness with a sliver of steel, its muzzle brake glowing faintly against the pale snow. The infantrymen lower themselves like men waiting for a charging bull. Bazookas aren't raised yet. No one fires, not until this trap either works or fails. The Panther rolls closer, its wide tracks grind over snow, chewing through ice and mud, heavy as a freight car. Keller's glove tightens on the lever, waiting for the tank to commit its full weight. 30 more feet, 20, 12. The Panther's gun slowly begins turning, toward the road ahead, toward the trench, toward the men who know they are helpless if this trick fails. The tank commander doesn't even consider danger here. Why would he? There are no mines, no artillery shells, only white snow, and steel wire buried underneath it. The tank reaches the center of the trap. Keller yanks the lever. It slams down like a guillotine. There is a shriek, not of metal scraping metal, but of metal murdering metal. The chain snaps straight, pulling tight like a drawn bow at full tension. The grinding track meets an unyielding steel whip. The cable doesn't break. Instead, the Panther's track explodes off the wheels, flung into the air like a snapped serpent. The tank slams nose first into the road as its hull jerks sideways, crippled, throwing sparks as its entire body twists under its own momentum. Its left track whips free, shredding into chunks like butchered meat. The forest echoes with the sound, brutal, stunning, unthinkable. A cable just crippled a German tank, a farmer's rope. For a second, even the Americans forget to shoot. They stare at Keller, and he says nothing. He doesn't have to. The trapped Panther grinds helplessly, its engine screaming as it tries to move. 2 infantrymen raise their launchers. A flash, a roar, bazookas fire, the Panther burns. But something more explosive than armor is happening. This farm invention just changed the battlefield. And the Germans haven't even realized it yet. Something bigger is coming. The tank crews who mocked Keller, they'll be begging for this trap within days. Smoke still hangs in the air like a curtain pulled across the road. The Panther burns a slow, heavy fire, orange carving shapes into the black morning. The infantry pull back from the blast, some laughing in disbelief, some stunned into silence. And Keller? He just stares, as if he's seen this 100 times before, because he has. just not on a battlefield. Before he was Sergeant Keller, before he was part of the 87th Infantry, before he froze in the Ardennes snow like a stubborn tree stump refusing to break, he was a farmer in Pennsylvanian coal country. A man who spent his life pulling machinery out of mud, rescuing tractors from ditches, dragging half-ton hay balers uphill, rebuilding old logging chains in his father's barn. He remembers his father's voice. Steel don't need to cut. It just needs to hold when something else breaks. Harold never forgot. And when he first saw a German tank up close, the way its weight slammed down on the road, the way its tracks strained against every turn, he didn't see invincibility. He saw strain. He saw pressure. He saw leverage. Not how to destroy a tank, how to make it break itself. Keller stands near a half-frozen woodshed on the outskirts of Tillet. Nearby, engineers curse at a broken jeep engine, and tank crews polish the armor of their Sherman like a sick horse they're pretending is healthy. Snow pelts his coat as he studies a rusted forestry winch abandoned behind a Belgian farm. A thick, mud-stiffened logging cable coils beside it, mixed with chains dragged from the barn like metal intestines. His squad watches him work. They exchange looks. What's he doing? Making a fence? Does he think tanks are cows? Keller pulls out stakes made from chopped oak trunks, notched by hand, rough, ugly. He drives them into the frozen ground with a sledge, one brutal swing after another. Sergeant Mike Dombrowski smirks. You gonna lasso a panther, Keller? Keller doesn't answer. Instead, he threads the chain through the stakes, wraps it through the winch, and begins tensioning the line. Snow cracks, wood splits, the earth itself strains as he turns the lever. He keeps turning, and turning, until the wire is so tight that even brushing it would slice skin. The men step back. It's no rope. It's a steel tendon, a trap that doesn't wait to hit something, a trap that waits to be hit. But when the colonel arrives, soaked in cold frustration after scouting reports of another German armored probe, he takes one look at Keller's work and scoffs. You think that's going to stop a Panther? A Panther weighs 45 tons, Sergeant. Keller wipes frost from his glove. Sir, the trap won't stop the tank. The tank will stop itself. Laughter. Eye rolls. Dismissal. Mockery. The 87th isn't a unit known for engineering miracles. They're infantry, foot sloggers, the ones who hold lines, who freeze in foxholes, who get overrun when the tanks come. They're not supposed to outsmart armor with ropes and farm tricks. But Keller keeps building, because he remembers something every man laughing behind him has forgotten. Steel is only strong until it's forced to do what it wasn't meant to, like a tank pulling its own track apart. The Panther is dead, but a single tank never attacks alone. Keller wipes ash from his face and looks back down the road where the tremors started. The earth begins rumbling again. This time, more than one. The soldiers grip their rifles tighter. If the first trap worked, they won't retreat. They'll come straight through the kill zone, assuming the Americans fired rockets, not rope. The Germans don't know they're driving into a mechanic's nightmare. They don't know the real trap hasn't even been used yet. Because Keller didn't build one cable, he built 3, and only one has been sprung. The wind shifts as the flames from the first Panther lick higher, casting a pulsating glow across the snowy tree line. Keller keeps his squad low, pushing them behind the shattered embankment. You can hear the snow hissing as embers fall into it. The rumble now is unmistakable, not the lonely growl of a single prowling cat, but the rolling thunder of a herd of armor. 2, 3, maybe more. The forest seems to vibrate with their approach. Trees give a faint, creaking complaint with every tremor. Private Owens whispers, "How many are coming?" Keller doesn't answer. Not because he's unsure, but because he's listening, trying to hear the spacing, the weight, the rhythm. That matters more than the number. Every farmer knows you don't chase the cow, you read the herd. The first pair comes into view, a Panther leading a Sturmgeschütz-3 assault gun, crawling forward with its gun low, scanning for bazooka teams or mines. They're cautious but confident. They believe Americans crippled their comrade using rockets. They're ready to return fire, but they have no idea where the real weapon is buried. The Panther slows, studying the burning wreck. Its commander stands upright in the turret, binoculars pressed to his face. Snowflakes melt on the hot barrel. He sees a rusted cable snaked across the road, clearly broken and snapped during the explosion. He relaxes. He assumes it was debris, not a trap. He gestures for the column to move forward. The first German tank crawls toward the wreck. Keller glides his hand along the second lever, not as tense as before. This one is different. It's not just tension, it's timing. The assault gun behind the Panther inches closer, keeping perfect spacing. 20 meters apart. 15. 10. Side by side, they look invincible. Thick plates, heavy guns, steel teeth chewing snow. But Keller isn't looking at their armor. He's looking at their distance. He whispers to the man next to him. Wait for the second. The Panther reaches the wreck. Its turret shifts, watching the American trenches. The soldiers duck instinctively, expecting cannon fire, but the Panther doesn't fire. It hesitates, because its commander is confused. Why isn't anyone shooting rockets? Why are the Americans waiting? The second tank, the low-profile Stug, tries to close the gap. Its tracks grind forward, and that's when it happens. The Sturmgeschütz drives over the next buried cable. Not the first cable, not a decoy, the real one. The one wrapping around the Panther's broken track like a snare. The one Keller rigged to both tanks at once. The Stug's weight pulls the line tight. The Panther's burned carcass acts like an anchor. The cable goes rigid. Then, wham! It doesn't rip one tank's track off. It rips both of them sideways. The Stug jerks so violently that its idler wheel snaps, twisting the entire chassis. The Panther that was hesitating lurches backward, pinned to its dead sibling like two massive beasts caught in a single net. Metal shrieks. Snow erupts. The line sings with tension like a violin string pulled to the breaking point. Private Owens blurts out, "Holy, what is this?" Keller answers without turning his head. Something my father called a dead man's pull. Not designed to stop one machine. Designed to make one machine destroy another. The Germans scramble. Commanders shout. Machine guns sweep the road, searching for bazooka teams that still haven't fired a single shot. Because Keller's men aren't attacking. They're watching the tanks tear themselves apart. The Stug's driver tries to reverse. The cable tightens again. The Panther's ruined track holds like a steel anchor trapped in the past. The crew panics. Inside the armor, men scream orders. Metal shrieks again. The Stug's suspension implodes. Its left track disintegrates into a fountain of iron links. The Panther's turret swings blindly, trying to find enemy infantry, but it doesn't matter. It can't move. It can't turn. It's prey. Keller looks at his mortarmen, then points calmly. Now. The sky erupts with the thump of mortars being launched. No bazookas this time, just high explosives raining directly onto the crew compartments of two immobilized beasts. A farmer's trap, followed by a butcher's finish. Two tanks crippled, another roadblock forming behind them. And the Germans have no idea how many more cables are hidden in the snow. The second blast rocks the road, scattering blackened snow and pieces of armored plating across the trees. The air turns thick, a bitter mixture of burning cordite, diesel fumes, and scorched rubber. Mortar smoke curls upward like ghostly fingers, wrapping the crippled tanks in a grey shroud. For a moment, it's quiet again. No gunfire, no engines churning forward, just the low, miserable whine of cooling metal. The German armor column behind the wreckage halts in confusion. Through the haze, 3 more silhouettes appear on the road. A third Panther and 2 half-tracks loaded with grenadiers. They stop short, unsure whether to advance or retreat. The Panther's turret rotates slowly, scanning the forest for bazooka flashes, for mines, for hidden gun nests. But none appear. Just snow, smoke, and cables they still don't understand. The Panther commander curses. His radio crackles as he tries to comprehend the scene. A dead tank shouldn't be holding another tank hostage. A snapped cable shouldn't act like a steel vice, and whatever just happened shouldn't be possible without artillery. He finally understands one part of it. This isn't random. It's planned. His column is trapped on a farm road built for wagons and oxen, hemmed in by snowbanks and sloping ditches. No room to maneuver, no way to flank, no turning radius to escape. Forward is lethal, backward is too slow. The narrow road becomes a chute, a slaughter lane, a perfect place to force a herd into panic. The German infantry dismount from the half-tracks, shouting for engineers to check for mines. 2 men sprint forward, probing the road with bayonets, scanning for pressure plates. They ignore the shredded cable, assuming it was just debris from the explosions. A mistake. One of the engineers kneels near a chunk of track. He lifts the twisted steel, inspecting it. Confusion deepens on his face. Tracks don't fail like this. They don't get ripped apart cleanly unless something made them. He mutters a sentence that chills even the grenadiers. Es war kein Sprengstoff. Es war gespannt. It wasn't an explosive. It was tensioned. Someone else mutters something darker. Eine versteckte Stahlpeitsche. A hidden steel whip. They don't even realize they've coined a new term. One that will spread through the German ranks within days. In the American trench, Keller leans back and exhales a slow, steady breath. He watches the enemy flail, not with satisfaction, but with the calm of someone who's seen animals panic when they finally notice a trap. His voice is low, almost conversational. They'll try to rush the road. Tanks don't like to feel cornered. Dombrowski cracks a grin. Good, let 'em stampede. Keller shakes his head. Stampeding's only useful if you've got somewhere to run. He glances at a third lever, half buried in the snow. The men follow his gaze. They've seen the first trap destroy a tank. They've watched the second one cripple 2 at once. Now they're staring at the third. None of them dare ask what it does. Owens finally whispers, That one. What's it supposed to stop? Keller wipes a layer of frost from the lever and answers without emotion, Not a tank. Everything behind it. The Germans begin shouting. Orders barked from the Panther commander. Panicked infantry waving others forward. The half-tracks rev their engines, unsure whether to advance or retreat. A metallic squeal echoes down the road as another Panther prepares to push the wrecks aside. They don't know Keller's trap is designed to do exactly that. A cable rigged not to stop a vehicle, but to drag all of them into a single, choking bottleneck of twisted steel. The snow falls harder, the wind quiets, the battlefield waits, the herd is about to move again, right into the last trap. Snow lashes sideways as the wind picks up, slamming into the burning tanks like it wants to smother the fire. The German column has no choice now. A bottleneck of metal and fury sits in front of them, and the road back is too narrow to retreat without hours of maneuvering. Hours they don't have. The Panther commander knows it. So does every grenadier pressed against the armor, begging for orders. The storm is rising, visibility shrinking. If they stay here, they'll freeze. Or worse, be caught blind if American reinforcements arrive. They make their choice. Forward, push through, smash the wrecks, break the trap. The Panther's engine roars as the driver guns the throttle. It lurches ahead, metal grinding like a beast gnashing its teeth. Sparks spit from the underside, where frozen debris scrapes against the tank's belly. The half-track behind it inches forward, ready to follow. Keller watches from the trench, gripping the final lever. He doesn't rush. He waits. He measures. The Panther slams its nose into the wreckage, a brutal metal embrace, crushing burnt steel with live power. It pushes the crippled Stoogie an inch, then 2. plates bend, tracks grind. A dead tank becomes a plow. The herd is moving. The dead become weight. The weight becomes force. Exactly as Keller planned. Only when the Panther's mass is driving the entire wreck does he nod once. Now, the third cable tightens. Not across the road like the others. Not waiting to trip a tank. This one loops around the wreck. A noose anchored to buried stakes, and a reinforced ditch on the far side. The Panther isn't fighting the cable. It's pulling it tight with every push. It drags its own trap shut. The tension spikes. The cable snaps taut, staking the entire wreck in place. The Panther keeps pushing, not realizing it's building its own prison. Metal squeals as stress builds through the chain, through the dead tank's frame, through the armor plates under pressure. Then Keller whispers to his squad, "Don't blink." Crack, not the cable, not the stakes. The Panther's transmission explodes. The torque shears its gears into shrapnel. The engine belches black smoke. The tank stops dead, frozen mid-push like a bull with a broken spine. Inside, men scream, trapped in a metal coffin full of sparks and fumes. The half-track behind it crashes forward, unable to brake in time, ramming directly into the halted tank. Gunner helmets snap back. A driver breaks his jaw against the steel dash. The entire column compresses like a collapsing lung. A pileup of steel. Dozens trapped. One road sealed. The herd has crushed itself. Keller steps up from the trench, not rushing, not cheering, just walking through snow-lit orange by the flames. He orders, "Hold fire until they start digging out." The squad is stunned. Owen stammers, "Why? We've got them dead." Keller shakes his head. "Not dead enough. Make them claw. Make them expose every hatch." He doesn't sound angry. He doesn't sound proud. He just sounds certain. Because farmers know something no soldier ever expects to learn in war. An animal is most dangerous when it realizes it's caught. The German grenadiers begin to scramble, hacking at twisted metal, trying to free their comrades. Hatches slam open. Boots pound the armor. Voices yell for medics, for cutters, for help. That's when Keller gives the order. "Now, end it!" Grenades arc through the snow. Machine guns erupt in crossfire. Mortars thump again, precise, merciless, drowning the road in fire and shrapnel. The Germans try to fight back, but they're crushed together, shoulder to shoulder, with nowhere to move, nowhere to hide. The road becomes a furnace. Within minutes, the counterattack dissolves into silence. The snow falls again. The wind returns to calm. The herd has stopped moving. The battlefield smells of diesel and burned iron. Keller stands over the wreckage of 3 Panthers, a Stugge, and 2 half-tracks, all fused into a wall of frozen steel. His squad looks at him differently now. Not like a farmer, not like a tinkerer, but like the man who turned logging cable into a weapon the German army wasn't ready for. And this was only one road. There were many roads in the Ardennes, many farms, many cables, many men like Keller, who knew how to make steel obey. By dawn, the fires have cooled into smouldering heaps, their orange glow buried beneath layers of fresh snow. Blackened wrecks jut out of the road like jagged tombstones. The wind carries only the crackle of cooling metal and the faint ticking of shattered engine blocks. A medic from Keller's unit walks past the destroyed column, shaking his head at the wreckage fused together by force, heat, and panic. He mutters, "Looks like the tanks killed each other." Keller doesn't correct him. Why bother? The truth would sound crazier than the rumor. Hours later, German officers sift through what's left of their advance on Tillet. They find scraps of cable frozen into the snow, twisted stakes rooted deep under ice, and a pattern of tension that confuses even their engineers. They don't know how many cables there were. They don't know where they were placed. They only know one horrifying fact. The Americans didn't need explosives to kill armor. The report sent up the chain of command contains a short, blunt sentence that makes its way to regimental headquarters. Feind benutzte versteckte Stahlpeitschen. The enemy used hidden steel whips. No mention of bazookas, no mention of artillery. Just a new fear. Traps that could make tanks tear themselves apart. It spreads quickly, whispered through armored crews like a ghost story passed after midnight. The fear doesn't come from what the Americans fired. It comes from what they didn't fire. A week later, Keller is called into a makeshift operations tent. Maps cover every table, marked with red ink showing broken roads, stalled convoys, and the desperate push of German armor through choking valleys. A major leans over the map, tapping his finger on 3 red circles. "Sergeant Keller, what would it take to block these roads without artillery?" Keller looks at the lines. Narrow passes, forest trails, frozen wagon routes carved before Belgium even had an army. He studies them not like a soldier, not like an engineer, but like a man reading the layout of fields, pastures, and cattle runs. "Give me cables, stakes, and 2 days." The room goes silent. One officer scoffs under his breath the same way others did before the first trap. Keller ignores him. He's heard that tone his whole life. His answer isn't about confidence, it's about experience. "Sir, roads are just fences with direction. Tanks are just cattle with armor. If you know where they'll walk, you can make them break themselves." No one laughs this time. Weeks later, when the German offensive finally collapses and Allied troops retake shattered villages 1 frozen mile at a time, enemy tank crews leave messages scratched into abandoned armor, often written in desperate shorthand. No more steel whips. To them, it isn't engineering. It's a curse they never understood. To American infantry who heard the stories, it's something else. A farmer from Pennsylvania who never stopped thinking like one. A man who didn't defeat tanks. He made tanks defeat themselves. Keller never wrote a manual. He never patented a design. He returned home to his farm, back to pulling machinery out of mud and repairing cables behind a barn. But among the men of the 87th Infantry, a rumor remained. You don't want to bet against a man who knows how to pull steel until it screams. A weapon born from fields, fences, and stubborn ingenuity. The kind of weapon war never plans for, because it doesn't look like a weapon at all. Thanks for watching.